You know, the Epiphany, it's a rich feast filled with symbolism, filled with mystery and beauty and truth. It's also filled with wisdom for our lives today. And as we celebrate the visit of the wise men or the astrologers to the child king in Bethlehem, as always, we should be mindful that these feasts that we celebrate in the life of Jesus, they're not simply about events that happened over 2,000 years ago. These feasts are given to awaken us in our own journey of faith in 2021. Most of you probably know that an epiphany is simply the manifestation or the showing forth of God, showing forth of the supernatural. But we connect it to a particular manifestation of God given to the visitors to the manger who came from the east. Thus, the Feast of the Epiphany is the celebration of the journey of the wise men who, upon discovering the newborn divine king, offer their gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. Now, the use of the terms wise men, astrologers, kings, magi, they're all synonymous in this biblical story. And there are so many lessons that we can learn from the story of the Magi, but I thought today I would do something that I don't normally do in a homily, and that's to draw upon literature. And there is a passage from Evelyn Waugh, a famous English writer of the last century, that I like to reflect on Epiphany. And he wrote Helena, published in 1950. It was a fictional work based on the journey of the mother of Constantine, who traveled to the Holy Land to find the true cross and did work in locating the holy sites of Jesus' life and death. Helena is credited with locating the place of Jesus' birth at Bethlehem, on which the Church of the Nativity now stands. And this is the prayer that Waugh imagines Helena praying in Bethlehem, remembering the three wise men who had come so far to adore Jesus. And here are his words to the wise men. Like me, you were late in coming. The shepherds were here long before even the cattle. They had joined the chorus of angels before you were on your way. For you, the primordial discipline of the heavens was relaxed, and a new defiant light blazed amid the disconcerted stars. How laboriously you came, taking sights and calculating where the shepherds had run barefoot. And how odd you looked on the road, attended by what outlandish liveries, laden with such preposterous gifts. You came at length to the final stage of your pilgrimage, and the great star stood still above you. What did you do? You stopped to call in King Herod. Deadly exchange of compliments in which there began that unending war of mobs and magistrates against the innocent. Yet still you came and were not turned away. You too found room before the manger. Your gifts were not needed, but they were accepted and put carefully by, for they were brought with love. In that new order of charity that had just come to life, there was room for you too. You were not lower in the eyes of the Holy Family than the ox or the ass. You are our special patrons, and the patrons of all latecomers, of all who have a tedious journey to make to the truth, of all who are confused with knowledge and speculation, of all through politeness make themselves partners in guilt, of all who stand in danger by reason of their talents. Pray for us. May we too, before the end, find kneeling space in the straw. For his sake, who did not reject your curious gifts, pray always for all the learned, the oblique, delicate. Let them not quite be forgotten at the throne of God when the simple come into their kingdom. I love that passage. The Epiphany is a feast for the latecomers, the ones whose journey is tedious, calculated, confusing. You know, some, they come running to Jesus barefoot like the shepherds. All they had to do was hear the voices of the angels. But others are more tentative in their journey to Christ, allowing speculations and reasoning kind of get in the way of mystery. Some still cling to childish faith who approaches a Santa Claus God who gives what we want because we're good. Many of us are late in truly coming to Jesus with an adult faith of our own. And then just at the moment of encounter, when the great star stands still above us, what do? We get sidetracked. We stop and call on King Herod. That is, we do things that could easily sabotage our journey to Christ, our experiencing of him. We get led into temptation. We do the exact opposite of what sacred travelers should do. But the Lord will see us through because we're on our way to him. And when we arrive, we are not turned away. We find room in the manger too. And we, when offering such odd and preposterous gifts for a baby, such as gold, frankincense, and myrrh, when we offer our gifts that are not needed, they are accepted still and put carefully by, because we make our gifts with love. Yes, these wise men are our special patrons, all of us latecomers who consider ourselves learned and sophisticated, yet are often obtuse and stubborn and holding on to things quite unnecessary. May they pray for us, and may we too, before the end of our journeys, find our kneeling space in the straw. That is, we find our own place to encounter Christ and worship him. May we not be forgotten when the simple come into their kingdom. And we're told at the end of the story that the wise men returned home a different way. They returned home a different route. That means they changed. They let themselves be transformed by that experience with Christ. They had to go home different. And friends, that is the essence of every celebration of the Eucharist. We bring who we are and what we have, and we place them before Christ. We place them on the altar. And far from the Mass being the same old every week, Christ comes anew in each Eucharist. The gifts are changed today in the here and the now. And in receiving Christ in his body and blood, we need to allow ourselves to be changed. We need to go home a different way, each and every one of us. But will we? Will you go home a different way? You see, that is a question that only you can answer in the way you choose to live your life today. But this Epiphany, may you find room in the manger, a kneeling space in the straw, a spot to share your gift and to feel his love in your heart. And may you have a true desire to go home a different way. Praise be Jesus Christ, now and forever.